What's going on, y'all? Welcome to another episode of the Speak Up Sports Podcast with Cass, Chris, and Shad. What's going on, fellas?
What's up? What's up?
Good. What's good? We got a lot to talk about.
A lot to talk about. Another big week in the NFL. Obviously, we last ended off with another. You want to say big Russell Wilson game with the Steelers. Got another receiver trade, but the biggest news is Anthony Richardson is officially benched by the Indianapolis Colts, and Joe Flacco will be the starting quarterback moving forward. What do you guys think when you guys heard the news?
Nah. What do you think? You start this one, bruh.
Nah. Y'all go ahead start. Y'all go ahead start. Let's hear what y'all have to say, and then I'll finish it off.
The initial thoughts, Sam?
I guess the real question is it performance based, or are you just mad because he checked himself out the game? I mean, I don't agree with it in general because he's a young quarterback. I mean, it's growing pains. The same thing in my opinion with Bryce Young, especially with the Panthers. They weren't going anywhere, so I don't even know why they did that. But I mean, you're handicapping your head coach by doing that. If we were to assume that the owner possibly overruled and say, hey, you need to switch it out, that's kind of fucked up. If you need to leave it in the coach's hand at that point. But I guess from my perspective, I just don't know what brought the change upon them. Like what ultimately made them decide, hey, no, he needs to be benched. Like, that's just the confusion right there.
I mean, for me, I think it's the wrong move. I didn't think it would actually happen. I think they're kind of playing into the media's hands a bit with this one. And it's funny, like if you watch Colts games this year, like as soon as AR like does anything wrong, like they pan the joke on the sidelines. Legit, every single broadcast, every single week they do that shit. And then, like, I don't think his job should have been like. I mean, I get AR is not playing the greatest, at all. But at the same time, even with the situation with Bryce, he had at least a season, and a season in a couple of games, 18 or so games, something like that. And AR has only had 10. So, I mean, it's really incomparable on that side. If you're trying to, compare the two, it's a questionable move, and questionable moves usually come from owners kind of meddling. So that's kind of where I got from it. I just hope that, he is right throughout all this. And it's not just a lost cause moving forward. It was funny today. No, not funny, but like, it was interesting seeing like the contrast of like him saying like Joe Flacco's Shane Steichen I'm talking about saying that Joe Flacco's a starter moving forward, and even Joe Flacco coming out in his interview saying that it's nice to know that you're the guy moving forward, and it's like, how well this seems very like it's all happened very quickly to me. To stem from this, like, I don't know, it's very weird. It's a very weird situation. You hope that, I mean, he's still young, 22 years old. You hope that he can like bounce back and get better, but I don't know. There were a lot of interviews and stuff with Shane Steichen, even Chris Ballard, saying that give him time. It's not going to be. It could take a couple years, and then to come and pull this move, it's a little weird. It's a little weird.
It's interesting. It's very interesting, but I mean, for some, there's a lot of things that are interesting. Number one, the first thing that's interesting is, you mentioned that the Colts are kind of following the national media, it seems. But it is funny that the national media hasn't talked about the Colts at all. And now all of a sudden they're like, oh yeah, we've seen that they did this, that, the third. Oh, I heard on the herd today, they said, the Colts got an all-star receivers, superstar running back. It's like, okay, well, where was that? Where was that at the beginning of the season? But hey, it is what it is. But as you mentioned, taking a reverse course of some of the things that you said for the entire offseason. Well, if you felt that Joe Flacco, point blank period, if Joe Flacco, it seems weird because some of the comments did kind of differ a little bit from how Dave Canales, in terms of when they benched Bryce Young versus how this benching kind of came. Shane Steichen in his interview today, I mean, and just throughout the locker room, reports are coming out that the locker room kind of seemed the vibe today was a little like dazed and confused. For some of the people that were in the national media, they were saying to go back to Chris's point about the tapping out. So Anthony Richardson tapped out, just for everybody listening. Anthony Richardson tapped out of a game or of the game this past weekend against the Texans after a play on third and long. That was something that a lot of people said, you never seen a quarterback do that before. He ended up saying that it was because he was tired. And some people think that this is what led to it. Well, a lot of people that were criticizing it were saying that it would lose the locker room. People in the locker room are going to give him the side eye. But it seems from what Shane Steichen said about he didn't know how the locker room felt about it. The receiver, Josh Downs, he seemed a little upset. Michael Pittman seemed like he was like, I don't know what the fuck going on.
He did seem
these
like
niggas, and Michael Pittman is a captain. It was a first-time captain this year. So Ryan Kelly is the only person that has publicly come out and said that Shane called him and told him, which, excuse me, it's kind of weird because if that's the case, then, what are you doing, Shane? And then as of a few minutes ago, it's also was said that prior to practice today, the team had not had a discussion about it at all. They had only basically all heard it through social media, essentially. So it's not a good look for, if it is a Shane Steichen came out and said that it was his decision. If it is your decision, this is how coaches fuck themselves up. If it's not your decision, that's how also coaches get fucked up.
This is the first sign of coaches.
It's and they play on Sunday Night Football, so we'll get into the Colts a little bit more. So I don't want to get too far into it, but it's not great. It's not great for it's not great for Anthony. It's not great for the organization. It's not great for Shane Steichen. Chris Ballard, he might be Teflon as it seems for 8 years he's been here, and but it's not great. It's not great. It's not great. It's not great at all. It's not great at all. And I will say that if I was gonna say that if it came down to the captain saying that, because like I said, a lot of former players came out and said, "Oh, I've never seen the locker room, blah 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 blah." The captain's got to perform. It's Sunday Night Football. We've also seen a lot of clips that have gone around of this past weekend. Some of the people on that team were selling. Offensive line, gave up 60% pressures on all passing plays this past week. I obviously know that the Texans' strength is D line, but the Colts' strength is offensive line. So 60%, I'm just saying.
Michael Pittman, you gotta.
I'm just saying.
Which watch he has a good ass game Sunday night.
I'm just saying.
So what do you think? Because I know, like, initially it was around saying, like, okay, when we didn't have details that came out today, you were thinking it might have been like a one game or a couple game type of things, and then them kind of doubling down on it, saying this is our plan moving forward. What were your thoughts on that? Kind of getting that today compared to yesterday.
It's interesting, some of the wording specifically that came out. But I would say, I mean, it's really nothing they could say. I mean, even if it was a one game suspension, I don't know why they would say that, for him. There has been, some people are expecting maybe there could be some things that come out about maybe immaturity, and maybe it's more so that and professionalism more so than it is play. and maybe a little bit stemming from the head tap. So we'll see. Obviously, Sunday Night Football is coming up, so there is going to be a lot of interviews. Especially given that this whole situation, there's going to be a lot of stuff that's going to come out on Sunday Night Football, that Sunday Night pregame. There's going to be a lot of conversation about it. We're going to hear some tidbits throughout the game and stuff like that. So we'll see. I mean, the next week and next couple weeks we'll give, we'll see. We'll see. We'll see. I don't want to get into too much because we'll see.
Which is tough, because didn't he say like this past off season that NFL was easy? Didn't he say that?
See, and that's gonna be quotes that they bring up. You know what I mean? Like you shoot yourself in the foot a little bit when you do kind of media like that. Or so you think going forward, how you think AR is gonna be? Like, because you see in Carolina they went back to Bryce pretty much because mostly because their season is kind of a wrap, and y'all are still in it for sure. But
I would say, the one thing that seems different, and we can even bring Will Levis in it, especially because they're all in the same draft class. Will Levis hasn't been officially benched, but it seems to kind of be trending towards that way. I would say the one difference between, in my opinion, is with Bryce, the guys in the locker room seemed excited with Andy Dalton. With Will Levis, Calvin really was out there like, hey, I'll see what I can do. So, like I said, given if you go back and watch there's a lot of clips that are going out from the interviews from some of the Colts players and stuff like that. Specifically, Josh Downs, just his body language, and maybe I'm reading too much into it. That did not look like a player that was happy about that. Michael Pittman, I'm not, he's a veteran, so he might have hit it a little bit better, but and he also has gone through a little bit of some of this craziness with the Colts because this is also something that I didn't mention, but November 7th, 2022 was the day that Jeff Saturday got hired. That's about a week from today. So just given the timelines, you may be able to put 2 and 2 together there in terms of where I'm thinking that some of the decision making might have come from. But Michael Pittman's a little bit of a veteran. He was a little upset, confused. This wasn't a locker room that seemed to be happy that they were moving on from this quarterback. So, not comparatively to, like I said, the Panthers. Them boys. Even Andy Dalton was, hey, yeah, I'm back, nigga. Like that. Joe Flacco, even Joe Flacco. He's always Joe cool, calm, and collected. But even him was kind of like, I don't. So I don't know. With a benching like this, with a second-year quarterback, it spells doom and gloom. So, you kind of have to operate as if he's done.
Yeah.
But the
Crazy
locker room
situation
is what I'm saying. The locker, it's weird. It's a weird situation. But speaking of a guy that was in that Panthers locker room, Deontay Johnson got traded to the Ravens. As I mentioned, another receiver trade. We got to see Amari Cooper. We got to see Devontae Adams, DeAndre Hopkins as well, who just made his debut with the Chiefs this past week. How did you guys feel about that trade when you heard it? And did you guys think that was a good fit, or should he have gone elsewhere?
I don't know if I can say I think he should have gone elsewhere. It's cool. I just don't like the fit for them. I feel like that's just gonna even more deviate from what they really need to be doing and what they really are good at, which is running the ball. I understand it's another weapon for Lamar, but when you start to get a little pass happy, their team tends to fall off of the wayside. So I don't want that to be the case. I understand he hasn't had I guess you could true number one, but they're gonna make it work. Obviously, I just don't know if that for sure moves the needle for me. But the most interesting part is he's going back to his division, so he's going to get a chance to play his former team, and I'm sure he's gonna try to light their ass up. So
who are in the lead of that division. Whoa, shout out Pittsburgh.
Shout out Pittsburgh.
I think it is like on the surface, I think it is a little bit of a weird fit. I'm interested to see how it plays out. For Baltimore side though, this is really honestly just a no-brainer. To add a weapon like that, and you're only moving. Really, they traded a fifth and got a sixth back. So really, it's only going to be like at most like 15 picks in between. So you got Deontay Johnson just to move back 15 picks. And he is, of course, on an expiring contract. So I mean, for the Ravens, why the hell not? You know, if you're going to be that team that is hopefully running the ball a lot and they're stacking the box, you might see a lot of man coverage, and that's what Deontay Johnson is best against. He's a man beater, you know, his routes, and so I'm interested to see how it works. I think it can work. I think Lamar is probably happy about it. You know, hopefully he stays healthy. I don't know. I guess maybe he had fake injuries the last couple of weeks that he missed practice. Deontay Johnson that he missed practice and a couple of games for. You know how that shit go when you're trying to get out. Well, maybe he just magically healed now and he don't have the rib, ankle, and calf injury he's had. But I mean, I'm interested to see how it goes, and I like where it could be, but I got to see it first.
Yeah, I like it as well. You know, it is an interesting fit because it is, in terms of type of receiver, is very similar to Zay Flowers, and well, not very similar in terms of like Zay Flowers is a little bit more elusive. He can do a little bit more in terms of the motion, and you know, Deontay's a little bit more of a separator. But I would have liked to have seen them get a bigger body receiver, more like Devontae Adams, which dumbass nigga decision for real.
That's it.
Yeah, the Jets. But anyway, I honestly disagree in terms of the when they start to pass more, it's bad because we've seen a bunch of huge Lamar games this year where they've been successful, but also they had some trash ass receivers. So yeah, when you start to pass more, when you were, sometimes when you're able to pass more, it's also because you're always behind and you're trying to play catch up. But in terms of now they've got another guy that is, I mean, from his MVP year, his first year, he was throwing like Willie Snead and what's my boy's name? I can't remember. Miles Boykin. And like Hollywood, bro. Like, come on, bro. Like, come on, no disrespect, but come on, bro. Like, this is a huge step up, even from last year. I mean, Rashad Bateman. I mean, Odell. I mean, shit. No disrespect to Odell, but I'm taking Deontay right now.
For sure.
But what Odell is, so I just think obviously you do want to be able to keep where they are more balanced, and but I think this just gives them another weapon, another go-to, so if they do get in a situation where they can't run the ball, like we're seeing Kansas City being a dominant run defense so far, if they're going against Kansas City, now they have weapons on the outside of just tight ends that can actually get open on a third down. Deontay Johnson can definitely do that. So that's how I'm feeling. But in other receiver news, how did you guys feel when you saw Stefan Diggs go down, man? That shit tough, ain't it?
It's tough.
The Diggs brothers in general.
Yeah, they've been having a rough go at it.
The Diggs brothers in general had a oh god, I mean shit. I forgot Trayvon tore his shit up last year, but they had a tough weekend. It's really what I was trying to get at. It's tough seeing that. You don't want to see a 31-year-old have a significant injury like that. Of course, there was like a rework of his contract to kind of force this year into a 1-year deal so he can kind of enter free agency and get, one last good contract. And this is probably the worst thing that can happen. Well, not probably. This is the worst thing that can happen because of that. And it did. So, I mean, it is tough for Stefan Diggs. Like, I still like Stefan Diggs as a player, but I mean, you got to like Houston won't bring him back. So it's like, where do you go from here?
I seen people float out that he probably signed a 1-year deal to go to Dallas, which I don't hate. Honestly, just to be with his brother and shit, kind of close out there. But it's tough because it's from Houston side, their receivers are falling like flies right now, and it's okay. I don't want to say falling like flies, but two two of them are down. Two of the top ones are down. That's always tough to kind of deal with, as you can see with the Bucks as well. So tough for Diggs. Yeah, I mean, it's not much else you could say. That shit is tough.
Shit's super tough, especially like you said, Cass. They was already down, Nico, and this was his chance, to shine a little bit, make get some stats or whatnot, and be able to get that other contract. But now it's like your last few games or film ain't really just eye popping off the film sheet or whatever. So now it's like you have to get your contract based on solely reputation, which
Yeah.
like you said, Cass. Going to Dallas probably makes the most sense because his brother there and they'll give him a 1-year deal and whatnot. But at the same time, I just at this point, unless he signed with a vet man for Houston, I don't know where else he could go.
I don't. I feel like he could probably stay. It depends on how Houston feels about him, because I mean, right now it doesn't look like we'll see how much he plays, but it's not like he has broken out in terms. Neither has Xavier Hutchinson either. So it's not. And then Robert Woods. I mean, he's getting up there in age. So I could see him returning to Houston, but I could also see him going to Dallas. In terms of his future, I mean, we'll obviously see how everything plays out. But I mean, it is tough. It's first of all, it's tough for Houston because, like you said, Nico Collins is out right now. With Diggs being out, and then Tank Dell, obviously he missed a lot of last season, has been in and out of injuries for both the past seasons. So we'll see if he's able to stay healthy. But just for, like you said, 31 years old. By this point in the season, obviously he'll be 32, but he'll probably be taking a year just to get back. Yeah. And who's to say that he will even play, early on or late, and then you have to get right. So it is going to be tough. And then you kind of get into the situation like Odell. Like Odell just hasn't been able to find a steady home. I mean, he's been with the Rams, now the Ravens, and now the Dolphins. So it is tough, and I don't want to say it's a close to the chapter, but it's just like a tough ending for how everything turned out with his last year in Buffalo to this point. Everything that's been said about him, and then ultimately ending like this. It always seems to happen like that somehow. Like it's just
right,
like
that shit.
It's
is
always
wild.
some bullshit that's got to happen, bro. Like it shit's crazy, but hopefully he's able to come back healthy. Hopefully he is able to get him a nice, decent contract and can continue his career. But hey, shit, CD and him, hey, Dallas would have to add more than that, but that'd be all right.
Yeah, be all right.
But man, before we get into the hot seat watch, man, let's get into let's talk about the Jets, man. What?
Ooh.
Okay.
Let's talk about the Jets. So, what y'all think, man? I don't even need to preface it with anything. What do y'all think?
Man, look, obviously that shit wasn't on my bingo card. I think I had them finishing first in the division, but I mean, I guess it's kind of a writings on the wall type of ordeal. It's like, this again, we talking about another player that's up in age, and he just had a Achilles tear that ended his season all last year. So it's like, I guess you want to think like, okay, Aaron Rodgers still Aaron Rodgers, he can make, but it just seemed like he done lost it now. And then you go from that to having your coach fired not even mid season. What, there was 4 games in, and he got fired. It just I think that just what made it fall all apart, in my opinion. At that point, once you fire your head coach that early in the season, like, I don't know how I would feel as a player. Like, my head coach gone already. Like, it's terrible. It's just terrible, in my opinion. Then you trade him. You get Devontae Adams, and it seemed like it made the shit worse. So Terrible.
It's I mean, honestly, it's playing out how everybody should have thought it would after firing their coach. This is what happens. The teams don't respond very well to this shit throughout the season. It's just not a thing that, is conducive of a functioning franchise. Especially after week 5. You know what I mean? So it's you can't be too surprised at what happened. The defense the last couple of weeks have that's probably the worst part about it. You can't give up 25 points to the Patriots without Drake May. With Drake May going out in the first quarter or whatever it was. I thought, like, as soon as Drake May went out, I was like, man, these motherfuckers lucky because they were about to lose. And these motherfuckers lost anyway.
And they fucked around and lost anyway.
It's just it's such a bad look, but at the same time, it just seems like a very toxic environment. I mean, you have player only meetings and shit after 1 week with Devontae Adams, and it's it's tough also because we are like, I do like Aaron Rodgers. This is, we all like Aaron Rodgers on this podcast, and just the way he went about things. Yeah, the way he went about things this season and the way they're doing it is honestly just bad business. And you're seeing it play out on the field. So like, and we'll talk about with our Thursday night, when we talk about Thursday night, but that shit could be a wrap for real. Like, I mean, I think it already is, but huge game.
Yeah, they're trash. I mean, it is. We don't have to get too much into it, like you said, because we will talk about it for our Thursday night game. But I mean, it is a disappointment. Very, very, very big disappointment, just the entire season as a whole. But before we get into the hot seat watch, do you guys think that Aaron Rodgers returns at the end of the season, regardless of what happens, or next season?
I think so.
I think so. Will. He got that ego in him.
He did mention the fact that, and I think honestly New York would bring him back. He did mention on one of the shows he went on when they were doing that media tour that week that they got Devontae, that he didn't move Devontae all the way here just for 4 months. And I kind of think they're just sticking to that. I think they'll have a big, even though they shouldn't, I think they'll have a bigger role in who the next head coach is, which could spell doom. I think at this point, if you're the Jets, you've handed it over so much to him already. I don't think you're going to break away from that, to be honest. So I think he'll be back. And I think Devontae will be back as well. Huh?
Said Nat Hackett.
Yeah. God, don't do that.
That's nasty.
Don't do that. You think he'll be back?
Yeah, I think he'll be back. I mean, he kind of has to. I mean, he don't want to go out like this after all the things that he spoke about. So I think he kind of has to, but it could get even worse. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get into our hot seat watch. We've been tracking pretty well. Justin Herbert responded just like Kyler responded. So, we'll see if some other guys and some other folks respond this time. But who you guys got on the hot seat watch and why?
Really, it should be everybody should choose the Colts, to be honest with you. But no, I'm gonna actually choose their opponent, the Vikings. You start off the season hot. It's good to see, but this is a tough division for them, and they already just lost 2 games in a row. They really don't want to keep losing another game and fall further behind in their division, because I think it's possible that 3 people can come out their division, but I mean, people have been saying, possibly 4 or whatever. Hell no. But they got to keep up. They still have plenty of division games left, so they cannot afford to lose another game. Like 3 games in a row, that's a funk watch, ain't it, right there?
Oh, yeah. That is the funk for sure.
But yeah, so that's who on the hot seat. It's not really much of a firing type of ordeal. It's more so the concern of their going into the playoffs.
And usually we do see a team kind of start hot and tail off towards the middle of the season. And honestly, they just might be that team, And I mean, we'll see, but I like that one. Last week I had Daniel Jones, and
he played pretty good.
I feel like he did just enough. You know what I mean? He did just enough to keep his job for a week or two more. And of course Brian Daboll already came out and said that he's going to be a starter next week. So it might be a week to week thing with him. Daniel Jones. But this week I'm gonna go with Derek Carr. The best thing possible probably happened over the last 3 weeks that he's been out, and that is Spencer Rattler and Jake Hayner not showing any kind of promise. Jake Hayner. So for Derek Carr, it kind of cemented that we tried it because I really think they were going to roll with Spencer if he showed anything. But at this point, it's like, all right, let's put Derek back in there. It's his offense, it's his team. So it's on you, Derek Carr, to show that you're worth bringing along for next season and longer, probably. Again, you're only 33 years old. It's not like you're ancient. You know what I mean? You still should have, another contract's worth of good play in you. But will it happen? I don't know. This is your kind of chance to kind of turn this season around a little bit. I mean, you start this weekend with the Panthers, who have been giving up 30 points to every single team they played against, who you blew out in the first game of the season pretty bad. So you got to show some stuff again, Derek Carr. You don't want to come back and look rusty or anything like that, because this fan base will be on your head very quickly because they're on edge down there in New Orleans. And I watch a lot of videos. I read a lot of articles of opponents in my division. They're on edge, everybody. So let's see what you do, Derek Carr. You're on the hot seat watch, man. Will your career continue after this season?
Derek Carr, and the Saints need to make some decisions because their recent contract extension with Alvin Kamara is questionable as well.
Questionable at best.
But hot seat watch, the Indianapolis Colts. They were going to be on the hot seat watch before all of this happened, so they're on the hot seat watch today.
Oh, man.
Originally it was going to be Shane Steichen, but we got to put the whole organization in there. So to start, Shane Steichen, you've been given the offensive guru. Well, from down to down, throughout the entirety of the season, whether it's Anthony Richardson or Joe Flacco, it hasn't been consistent. It hasn't been consistent marriage of run game versus pass game, deep shots versus short shots. You haven't given your quarterback an easy button, and now he's benched. Whether that's on him, that's an organizational failure. Shane Steichen, you're on the hot seat. Chris Ballard, we don't even need to get into you because it's year 8. It's year 8.
He don't fuck with him, huh, Chris?
He don't
fuck. Year 8. No, I fuck with Chris Ballard, but it's year 8. It's year 8.
Chris Ballard don't fuck with you.
Oh, no. He don't. Jim Irsay. We don't know. We do not know if Jim has meddled or not, but at this point, you have to start calling it what it is. You had a layup of a generational quarterback in your hands with Andrew Luck. He's now retired. That led you into a point where you've had 8 different starting quarterbacks over the past few years. You fumbled that chance because he couldn't trust the Colts medical staff, which led him getting into a point where he felt that he didn't want to do that anymore. He didn't want to go through rehab and trust people with his health. That's a failure. Now you drafted a quarterback in the fourth overall that he did have some injuries last year, and he's technically not a rookie, but he also is technically a rookie. You hired a guy from ESPN mid-season over 2 years ago, and 2 years ago, almost to the same date, you bench your quarterback that you drafted in the 4th round. Whether that's you, whether that's your head coach, whether that's the general manager, everybody's on the hook for it, because when a quarterback, like whether it's Bryce Young, Will Levis, whomever it is, Trevor Lawrence, it's an organizational failure. And at this point, that's 2 young quarterbacks in less than 10 years, 12 years. You got to start calling it what it is at some point, and it might be poverty franchise. It might be poverty franchise. What's really going on? If whether Anthony Richardson is bad or not, this in after 10 games cannot happen.
Yeah.
So, poverty franchise Indianapolis Colts watch is on as we get through the rest of the season and into next season to see what they do. And Jim Irsay, you are on the hot seat watch, my friend. You are on the hot seat watch. This is not you. It's getting to the point where you're starting to look like the Dallas Cowboys, always trying to relive the triplets. It's not Peyton Manning anymore. It's not. He's gone. He's not running a franchise no more. So it's on you. Hot seat watch.
That's tough. That's tough, Chris.
I mean, it's all warranted.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, when you really think about the aspect of you can't run a franchise like that having 8 different quarterbacks in the span of less than 10 years, like that's not successful. It's not sustainable. That's not successful. Everything he's saying is
trending towards way more than that now. It could continue in that number. That's what it's trending towards. The hope is that AR comes back, but again, we'll see. But this is Joe Flacco, a 40-year-old quarterback. That's your
Shane Steichen. You are on the hot seat for real.
Yeah.
Time. That time has started for you. End of the season is very much on the table.
It's unfortunate. You turning your season over to a 40-year-old quarterback who's probably not coming back next year. So who are you getting next year? Because you're going to be 9. You're going to be 8. You got to have 7, 8, 9 wins, something like that in that range, which is going to be a middle of the pack kind of first round pick. So are you dipping in the free agent pool again like you did the last 4 years before AR?
Justin Fields.
And do you go with a Justin Fields? Do you go out and get like a Sam Darnold? Like, who do you get? So it's kind of like,
yeah. Hot seat watch. Poverty franchise watch. Poverty franchise watch. All right, let's get into the game picks. Let's get the rundown what it looked like last week, and we'll get into Thursday Night Football.
Pretty good week last week for you two. Chris, the only one you got wrong was the Thursday night game. You picked Minnesota over the Rams. Like we all did.
They got hurt, bro.
Yeah.
They're assault, man.
No, dude. You got lucky.
With what?
With that Hail Mary, nigga. What you mean with what? The fuck?
For Washington. Oh, yeah, for sure.
They were ass all game. Bears are ass. No, Bears are ass. He had like 30 yards for 3 quarters. I ain't trying to hit it. Hey, tell 29 to pay the fuck attention. Stop playing around. That's what you needed.
That was bad.
You do need to tap in.
That was bad.
Well, go ahead.
That was bad. So that was the only one you got wrong last week. So he had 5 wins. Shot. Of course, you had Minnesota wrong. And the other one you had wrong was, of course, Chicago. So it was 3 for me, 5 for you, Chris, 4 for Shad. So Chris, you took the lead. I'm at 28.
I thought Chris that made us tie. Oh, you lost. You didn't. You only got 3. Never mind.
Mm-hmm. Chris, you're at 29. Shad is at 24. So it's shaping up.
Okay, Thursday Night Football. We got the Houston Texans, who are bruised and battered, versus the New York Jets, whose pride is bruised and battered. Who you guys got and why?
Game full of stank, boy. Man, look, I got Houston, man. I can't believe in the Jets until they show me something, man. I mean, I understand Houston, they're dealing with their fair share of injuries, but man, they just not playing good football right now. They just don't know what the fuck going on. And it's sad because it feel like it's both sides of the ball. Like, your defense is supposed to be a calling card, and they not have, in my opinion, they haven't been looking good at all, and we already know what their offense has been looking like. So I can't trust them right now. So I'm going with Houston.
I'm gonna go Houston as well. Coming like it's tough because like it's 100% if you lose this game, like the Jets, I think you have to be sellers. You have to get off of. Honestly, you really should trade Deontay Allen, but you probably would. You should trade. you gotta shake your shit up. I don't know exactly how that looks, but I think their season is ultimately over on Thursday. Because of that, Houston. Shout out to Joe Mixon. I think they'll kind of just ride him until pause. Until Nico comes back and they kind of get the offense, the passing game back on point. But Joe Mixon has been looking great like this season. Like I didn't think he had. Honestly, I really did not think he had this type of season still in him. It's kind of been a revelation of some sort. So shout out Joe Mixon. I think that kind of continues on Thursday night. Yeah, Houston.
Yeah, so this is a big game for the Jets. I mean, as you mentioned, if they lose, this is the end of their season. If this is the game that they're going to, if this is the game that they're gonna, this is the game that they need to turn their season around.
Yeah,
if they are going to turn their season around, this would be the team that they could get it against as well, because Houston is reeling. They haven't, or not necessarily in terms of wins, but in terms of bodies that they have, in terms of play, just offensively in general. Another kind of snoozer offensively, you know, and Anthony Richardson kind of gave him a gift at the end of the half that gave him a touchdown. But aside from that, they really weren't moving the ball or doing too much against the Colts. So, and their offensive line is a problem with Hassan Reddick coming back. You know, this would be the get right game. But I'm going with the Houston Texans as well, because for all those same reasons, Houston ends up finding a way to win, just like the Jets end up finding a way to lose. I can see the Jets being up maybe the entirety of the game, and Houston coming back to win in the end. Houston's also fifth in pass rush rate. They're one of the best pass rushing teams in the league, whereas the Jets are 24th in pass protection. So Will Anderson's 7.5 sacks already this season. I think it continues in Houston, Texas. But getting into the next game, the Denver Broncos, who have a pretty great record, you know, Bo Nix playing all right, but the defense playing excellent, versus the Baltimore Ravens with their new addition in Deontay Johnson. Who you guys got and why?
I got the Ravens. Although, like you just said, the Denver Broncos, their defense has been playing very, very good this year. But I think they don't have enough offensively to actually keep up with the Ravens, and I think the Ravens are going to be able to, you know, show something. They might, you know, get Deontay Johnson a little touch here and there. You know, he might score a touchdown. So, but I got the Ravens though.
I also had the Ravens. I don't trust, even though Bo Nix did have a really good week last week. Actually, it was against the Panthers. I still don't trust their passing offense too well. I don't trust their receiving playmakers outside of Cortland on the outside too much. And I think this is a game where they're gonna force Bo Nix to kind of make plays. And we'll see if you can do that. But I just can't. I can't pick as good as they've been playing this season. Shout out to the Broncos for sure. I can't pick them in this game against the Ravens, especially coming off a loss. To the Ravens, the Ravens can't afford to lose this game either, so they really, really need this. So I got the Ravens.
Yeah, so this is actually I think is going to be one of the games of the week. Baltimore has the number 2 offense in the league right now, whereas the Broncos have the number 1 defense per EPA per play right now. So offensive line for the Broncos have been excellent. The D line for the Broncos has been good as well. I think that continues this week. So I think that we actually have a close back and forth game. But since the Ravens are at home with Deontay Johnson coming over, I do think that he plays a little bit, but I think he makes a play or two that ends up being the difference in the game. So I got the Ravens winning in a close one in the end. But I do think that it ends up being maybe like a 27-24 game. But Chicago at Arizona. Chicago coming off a very tough loss. Very tough. How did you guys feel about that? Let's get into that. Tariq Stevenson, we saw him talking his shit we saw him talking his shit to the Washington sidelines. And we saw him give up the big play. Obviously, the tip that ended up becoming the Hail Mary to Noah Brown to win the game for Washington Commanders. What did you guys think about that?
Hey, man, if you don't know now, karma is fucking real. Like how real is this shit? Like, you literally, like, I don't know. Like, I get, celebrating because you think you won the game, but that was very much immature and extreme, in my opinion. Like, you got your back to it. The play is going on. You got your back fucking with the crowd. You turn around late and lazily start moving after the play. You didn't even move it. It was no urgency. You was like, oh, the play going on? Oh, all right. Oh shit, let me show y'all what I do.
And then he was
like,
the one that tipped it.
Thank you. Like you was look, they would have
He
won
was
the
the one
game
hiding
had he still
everybody.
talked. They would have won the game had he still been talking to the crowd. But you want to go prove a point, and then you like that is egregious as it can get. Like, and I feel bad for Chicago because in that situation, yes, it's a Hail Mary, anything can happen. You had the game won. Like, you had it in the bag. Like, that's just my take. That was very, very, very bad.
I got the same take as you. I'm gonna be honest. If I didn't choose Derek Carr, I was gonna choose Matt Eberflus for a hot seat watch. That was terrible. First off, handing it out to your lineman on second on whatever and goal that was, as that's the type of shit that will get
That
you
loses the game.
that, you know what I mean? So that happened, and then of course everybody's talking about the play before where they kind of just let up, and they still, I think it was 9 seconds or whatever it was, 7 seconds or whatever it was, they were able to get that 13-yarder, get out to get to the midfield so they can take that
and
shot.
Apparently, he was doing it then too.
Yeah, that's what they were saying. And then that happens, and then you come out after the game, Matt Eberflus, and put it on Stevenson, saying that he was the one that was supposed to be on Noah Brown, kind of like boxing him out, and that was his responsibility. It's just bad, like that type of shit. That type of shit is not good. Like, going forward, maybe we'll see if they can kind of move forward from it, but that's not what you want to see. That's not what you want to see, Matt Eberflus. That's not the kind of organization you want to run. Questionable decision making in that game. So, not good. They deserve to lose that after that, honestly. So.
Yeah, it was very tough into the game. There was some dumb shit that they did deserve to lose, but in the end, they did have the lead, and a Hail Mary is tough. But shout out to the Cardinals. Obviously, they continue to play well, and now they're at a point, especially after I called them out in the hot seat watch, they're at a point where they could be first in the division at the end of this week. So they've got the 12th overall offense thus far. Their defense is bad, but they can continue to play well. Marvin Harrison continues to get better. They continue to utilize him better than they have been. I'm rocking with the Cardinals. At home, I think that the Bears defense has taken a little bit of a step back over the past couple of weeks. And the Cardinals know that they're going to have to score to win anyway. So I think that the Cardinals continue to score, whereas the Bears still kind of go through the growing pains with Caleb Williams. And I think some people expected them to kind of take off in this point, but I think that we'll still see that Caleb and that offense, it's not just on him, that offense in general. I think we'll still continue to see them struggle a little bit. So I got the Cardinals in this
one. I actually got the Cardinals also, and for my reasoning, I just think that loss is devastating, man. I think that shit will carry over to next week, and they're not going to start. They're going to play. They're going to eventually play good, but I don't think they're going to start the game good at all. And the Cardinals will take a lead in that game and eventually keep the lead. But like you said, I mean, I'm liking the Cardinals' offense is coming together. Their defense they need some work. But I just think that loss from last week, that losing like that shit's terrible. So I think that shit might have a little carryover.
Facts.
I'm gonna go Chicago in this one. Mainly because of the Cardinals' defense. Like I know they had a. I mean, it's been a little weird for the Cardinals. I know the game against the Chargers, the defense kind of stepped up, but again, the Chargers don't have too many playmakers on the outside, so we'll see. But I think Chicago's defense will make enough plays in this game to kind of take this. I think this could possibly be a shootout. I think we see a better Caleb Williams than we saw against Washington. Well, I mean, he'll probably pass that 85 yards or whatever in one quarter. Probably, it was really bad. Really, I won't say bad, but it was not a good performance. I think we see a better version of Caleb Williams in this one. I got Chicago taking this one on the road.
Okay, we'll see. This should be a pretty good road win for them, an early one for Caleb Williams as well. So, especially after giving the last week, nobody mentioned this, but do you guys think that something like that helps elevate Jaden Daniels into MVP conversation?
MVP conversation?
People have been saying it. But I guess that kind of is just my answer.
Because you said wait. You said MVP.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was thinking you was talking about Rookie of the Year. Fuck no.
Enough said. Yeah. All right, Lions versus Packers. A divisional game. We're not 100% sure. Both coming off a huge win. Obviously, the Lions smacked the fuck out of the Tennessee Titans, put them into an early grave, and then the Packers doing the same, keeping it in the AFC South and beating the Jacksonville Jaguars with Jordan Love exiting the game. We don't necessarily know if he's 100% going to play this weekend. So, who you guys got and why?
I got okay. If Jordan Love play, I'm gonna go with Green Bay, but right now I got Detroit winning. They just been on a tear. I mean, they seeming pretty unstoppable, but at the same time, their defenses can be had, and that's why I think if Jordan Love does play, they can definitely win that game. So, but for now, I have Detroit winning.
I think this is a fantastic matchup to kind of see where the Lions are or where Green Bay is realistically on defense, because they've been playing great on defense, getting turnovers. Xavier McKinney is getting interceptions like it's candy. It's crazy. It's ridiculous. And like even his fast game, this shit got thrown right to him. I don't know. It's just one of those seasons where you just see the guy just a ball man. We saw last year with Bland. Shit just comes to him. But I got Detroit in this one. I think they're just humming though. I think their offense will be a little bit better than Green Bay's defense. And I think this is a big game. We saw Jahmyr Gibbs take off last week for the 70 yards. We've seen Montgomery have been steady, a steady bruiser pretty much every week. And I think they lean on that this week as well. And that kind of gets them the dub in this one. Yeah, Detroit.
So I'm actually rocking with the Packers on this one at home, whether Jordan Love plays or not. I got the Packers have Matt LaFleur, should be in Coach of the Year conversations, obviously because of the job he's done with both quarterbacks being back there. But they continue to respond, and Malik Willis has been playing all right. He hasn't necessarily been great, but I think that with the receivers being fully healthy this time around, with him, getting the first official start, I think that if he does start, I think that he'll continue to progress and play well. I also think that, as you mentioned, Cass, the Green Bay defense, I think that they get a couple turnovers off Jared Goff. He hasn't been throwing the ball too much over the past couple weeks. Obviously, wasn't necessary last week. I do think that the Packers slow the run game down a little bit, and they finally play a good defense that kind of gives them some pushback and slow them down a little bit. But getting into the Sunday night game, Indianapolis Colts and Joe Flacco versus the Minnesota Vikings and Sam Darnold.
It's an interesting game because last game the Vikings lost their left tackle, but they just traded for one from Jacksonville, so we're gonna see how that works. But the biggest issue that I'm having with this game is it's going to be Joe Flacco versus Brian Flores. He is going to heat that man up. He is going to send every blitz which away. And I feel like, AR will be able to, break free a little bit or move. He's at least a very much dual threat. So he's very much more mobile than Joe Flacco. And if the offensive line for the Colts play like they did last week, he's going to get towed up. So I got the Vikings. I got the Vikings in the game just for that reason. I just feel like that's a bad matchup with that defense versus just Joe Flacco in general. Not the offensive scheme of the coach, just the play of the offensive line last week and Joe Flacco not being able to move as much. So yeah.
I got Minnesota in this one at home. I think this is a very much game script dependent pick though. If Minnesota gets out hot and kind of force Indianapolis to be more one dimensional like Flores loves, I think this could be very ugly. And we seen Indianapolis come back and have some good 4 quarters this season, and come back and make games out of games that weren't supposed to be that close or even win games. But against this team, if you're passing the ball and we've seen it with Joe Flacco as well, kind of come back in the 4th quarter and make it a game. I think they still lost to Jacksonville or whatever. They're in that same situation, Minnesota, and they're with Minnesota, and they just start teeing off. It could be a little ugly. Joe Flacco will throw you. He'll throw you some. he'll throw a couple picks now. He'll put it out there, and this is a big game for Indianapolis receivers. I'll say that much too. We saw a lot of drops. Of course, you mentioned it. We alluded to it earlier. A.D. Mitchell, you got to hold on to the ball. You got to get your feet in bounds. Michael Pittman, you got to have a big game. And Josh Downs he's been a monster. So big game for their receivers. I'm interested to see it because we've seen also Stefan Gilmore get cooked multiple times this season. So then their receivers can do that to him as well. So we'll see how it goes. So I got Minnesota.
Yeah, so this one's a tough one. I'm rocking with Indy on this one, but I think that's I think it's one of these ugly games. I don't know if y'all remember that Denver Colts game on Thursday Night Football with Matt Ryan versus Russell Wilson. That was like 13-12 or something. I think it could be very much like that. I think Minnesota has started to come down to earth a little bit, and the Colts defense has actually been playing pretty well over the past few weeks. I do think that with Christian Darrisaw being out, I think that will be the difference in the game. Colts left tackle Bernard Ryman also might be out of the game, so which is another reason why I think it could be a little bit ugly. But with that being said, with Joe Flacco getting in there, we have seen teams this season that have benched their quarterbacks. They have all responded. The Panthers got their only win right after the game after that. Tennessee, we saw, once again, it wasn't necessarily a benching, but in the game that Will Levis got hurt, they ended up scoring 30 for the first time against the Dolphins. We saw last week, at least for initially, their offense got off to a hotter start than they've had this season. And then in terms of with the Patriots as well, they benched Jacoby Brissett, and their offense started to heat up as well. So I do think that the Colts, they will respond this week in an ugly game, and then we'll see how their season goes from there. So I'm rocking with the Colts from that one. But Monday Night Football, Tampa Bay and another team that's kind of hurting at the receiver position. In Kansas City, another team that's seemingly getting healthy at both the receiver position and then getting the acquisition from the Patriots this past week in oh god, I can't
Josh
remember.
Uche.
Yeah, Josh Uche, my boy. Who you guys got this week and why?
I mean, it's hard to pick against the Chiefs, but I'm gonna go out on a limb. I'm gonna pick Tampa Bay. I think the turning thing about this game is going to be that defense. They are very opportunistic, and the Chiefs have been giving it the ball away. But thing about Tampa Bay, they will take that shit to the fucking crib. So I could see Antoine Winfield Jr. fumble, return for a touchdown. I can see that shit happening. So I got the Bucks.
I feel the complete opposite from you. After watching this Tampa Bay defense the last month, that shit is ass. And when I say ass,
They
I
get
truly
turnovers.
mean,
So
I truly mean they are ass. Like Kirk Cousins carved them up twice in the last month. This last game, it was like you just knew it felt like every pass he was throwing was completion. There was somebody always open. They're eating the coverage up. I think this is the game where you see Pat Mahomes kind of have his best performance of the season. And I mean, I'm pretty sure that's going to happen, to be honest with you. They can't cover tight ends. We saw that with Kyle Pitts. Different kind of tight end, of course. But nobody can really cover Kelsey. And I think he has another big game coming off of a 90-yard, 1 touchdown game, wherever he had. So I think Pat Mahomes comes up huge in this game. And Baker, the big thing in Tampa Bay has been the turnovers. That kind of set them back. Of course, he had 2 bad picks last week. Closer to the one in the red zone, one on their way to the red zone. And you just can't have those mistakes if you're Baker. And he forced it too much. And I mean, it's kind of like he can't help himself sometimes. And I think this defense kind of takes advantage of that as well for Kansas City. So I don't really think this is going to be a close game, to be honest with you. I think it'd be very ugly. I got Kansas City at home too.
Yeah, I'm rocking with Kansas City in a close game in this one. The Bucks can score; they can't stop nobody. And they started getting a little cute this past week for whatever reason I don't know. Flea flickers and all that extra shit. I don't know why you're doing that. But
Fake
in terms,
punts.
I mean, it was just some extra stuff that they didn't necessarily need to do, but. And if they do felt like they needed to do, then they need to go make an acquisition at receiver because they felt that they said that they were good. So if you're good, then you need to play like you're good. So
yeah.
But I am going with Kansas City. Their defense continues to play well. Offense continues to get it done. On occasion in situational football. So I think that continues against a coach that's bad at situational football. So I'm rocking with the Chiefs on Monday Night Football on that one. And that kind of gives us a wrap for this week. It's getting to it. It's getting to it. It's the middle of the season.
There's a lot of bad teams in this league. Like I know it was a stat, or they put out a tweet saying it's like a record number of teams below.
They're like 2 and 4.
Yeah, 2 wins or below.
I mean, it's a lot of bad football that's been played just in general. I mean, the best team in the league has the. I don't know if he's still the league leader in interception, but he's been the league leader in interceptions through 7 weeks. So,
I think him and Baker are tied.
Yeah, sounds about right.
And Baker just chugging it now, so I don't know. So that might shoot up. But man, outside of that, that gives us a wrap for another week of the Speak Up Sports podcast. Next week we'll catch y'all again with another couple weeks of the weekly picks. We'll get into another hot seat watch. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about Nuggets basketball. Okay. But we'll catch y'all there. We'll see y'all later.
Oh man.